They are the migrants, workers in the sweatshops of the soil.
In 1960, CBS broadcast the landmark documentary Harvest of Shame. Hosted by legendary journalist Edward R. Murrow, the program introduced America to the plight of migrant farm workers. Oppressive working conditions, poverty-level wages, and substandard housing were depicted graphically, and the program made a distinct impression on the conscience of the American people. While federal labor laws, including minimum wage standards, have been implemented since 1960, some workers claim things haven't changed in the 40 years since Harvest of Shame. In fact, some suggest slavery is alive and well in the fields of southern Florida.
It is terribly important that we understand how in the year 2008 slavery can exist in Immokalee.
All of us must try to do something to rectify the situation, or it's never going to change.
A recent hearing on Capitol Hill is only the latest chapter in a series of accusations, protests, and apparent vindication. Charges of slavery and deplorable working conditions largely stem from the humid tomato fields of South Florida, where thousands of laborers harvest millions of tomatoes each year.
How in God's name, in this great country in the year 2008, are people still being held in slavery?
It's still occurring today. It's probably occurring most likely right now while we sit here. Workers are held, forced to work, threatened every day if they don't work. It's the conditions that they live under, the way they are forced into a debt servitude process where they pay weekly for their housing, for their food.
If the middle managers are involved in slavery, you would think that the chief executives would either know about it or in some way should be held culpable.
Eric Schlosser, an advocate and investigative reporter on issues like drug policy and the food industry, is best known for his novel, Fast Food Nation.
I've looked at the war on drugs and how the war on drugs operates. If there is marijuana grown on a property, that property can be forfeited or seized under civil or criminal statutes. I might recommend that farmers face the possible loss of their land if there are repeated instances of slavery.
Market to Market first reported on Florida's migrant worker movement in 2002, when the coalition of Immokalee workers was fighting fast food giants for higher pay. Lucas Benitez worked as a migrant farm worker for nearly 10 years, picking everything from oranges to tomatoes. Frustrated by the poor wages, he co-founded the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, a farm worker advocacy group based in Immokalee, Florida. Benitez says migrant farm workers are denied the right to organize, don't receive benefits like health insurance, sick leave, and pensions, and often live in substandard housing.
The living conditions here are really subhuman. Housing is a real problem here, but in the end, everything is still tied back to the low wages that we earn in the field.
Companies like Taco Bell and McDonald's pay tomato suppliers on a per-pound basis. Farm workers lobby the fast food giants to pay 1 more cent per pound for tomatoes and to pass those dollars on to day laborers. Taco Bell eventually agreed to the penny a pound raise in 2005, and McDonald's followed suit in 2007. The extra penny per pound from McDonald's and Taco Bell was expected to nearly double farm worker wages, from 40 cents to 72 cents per bucket of tomatoes.
So what did the Florida tomato growers say when these companies of conscience came forward and said, we'll give you an extra penny a pound out of our bottom line? Not only no, they said, we'll fine you $100,000 if you dare pay them an extra penny a pound. That's why we're here.
During the hearing, Senators Dick Durbin and Bernie Sanders blasted the Florida Tomato Growers Exchange and demanded answers to why the extra penny was never passed on to workers.
The Florida Tomato Growers Exchange does not object to the penny a pound being paid by McDonald's or Yum Brands. We simply do not wish to participate in the distribution of those monies.
Industry executive Reggie Brown refuted all charges against the Florida Tomato Exchange and cited antitrust laws as the reason the exchange didn't want to pass funds from the fast food giants onto migrant workers. But Sanders dismissed Brown's concerns and pressed him further on the issue of $100,000 fines to growers that decide to pass the penny on to workers.
Operational policies that standardize procedures and operations in the industry And as a contractual performance requirement, there is a fine in that process. Yes, sir.
And that fine is $100,000 for member growers who participated in this penny a pound program. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
In addition to allegations of industry stonewalling, lawmakers pointed out misleading estimates of migrant worker pay.
Mr. Brown is going to tell you these workers make $12 an hour. Please join me in doing the math. How many tomatoes do you have to pick in 1 hour under those conditions to make $12? Almost 3,000 tomatoes. You have to fill that bucket and empty that bucket every 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes. Is that physically possible? I don't think it is.
And so there are a lot of factors that you have to consider when you want to say that workers can make $12 an hour. Realistically, it's an impossibility.
It is an incentive reward system. If the worker is not working picking tomatoes and is working at another task on the farms, we are bound by law to pay $6.79 per hour, which is the Florida minimum wage.
So to suggest that these people are making dramatically more, maybe double the minimum wage in America, is beyond any credible belief.
Mary Bauer, a farm worker lawyer from the Southern Poverty Law Center, took issue with many of Brown's comments.
When piece rate workers are paid, their hours are routinely falsified. That is what that doesn't happen in every setting. That doesn't happen with every farm or every industry, but it's certainly what the workers in Immokalee were describing to me.
Bernie Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont, called for a congressional audit of migrant worker wages and put one further shot across the bow of the Florida Growers Exchange.
This is the beginning. This is not the end. We have broken ground on this issue. We're going to stay on this issue. Most of us on this committee think that what is going on in Immokalee in terms of the working conditions there is not something that in the year 2008 should be going on in the United States of America.